Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. I'm Mark Martin. Our military works around the world to not only protect America, but also to build relationships, inspire communities, and positively affect the region they're in. A new series from the Air Force highlights the men and women assigned to units in Africa. Here's a look at airmen in Africa.
I'm Staff Sergeant David Richmond. I'm a weather forecaster at Nigerian Air Base 201. Because flying operations have not started here yet, our job here is primarily centered around protecting assets and personnel. Severe winds and dust storms produce a significant threat to a lot of our construction workers who are outside all the time and have a lot of unanchored structures. So a lot of what we're doing now is preparing forecasts for those operators to give them the tools they need to be able to execute the mission. I also found a new hobby while I was here. Some of the woodworking projects I had here were the standing planter box, the weather rock sign, and I even wood burned a design into a dartboard. The reason behind why I went with the standing planter box is because the very first weather flight started a garden, but it was all in cardboard boxes. I kind of wanted to start a legacy, so my hopes was to create a tradition, have a nice takeaway, like a little oasis off to the side, so maybe if times in the future ever get stressful here, someone can always take a break, take in the flowers, maybe cut the grass. You'd be surprised how much you miss the smell of freshly cut grass when you've been in the desert for so long. I'd like to give a shout out to my unit back at Little Rock Air Force Base, 19th OSS. I'd also like to give a shout out to my niece and nephew, Zane and Amelia Richmond. Love you guys, I'll see you soon.
U.S. forces are at work in Ghana to train in an alternatively resourced environment, share medical practices, and build lasting relationships with medical professionals there.
What we're doing is we're taking our partner force lessons learned and our lessons learned and putting them together so that, especially for us in the United States Army, we can work in an environment that is unfamiliar to us with unfamiliar equipment, and it gives us a very different perspective of what we may see in other countries with the local national population.
The benefits to the soldiers that have never deployed before coming to a place like Ghana allows them to experience some of the types of injuries they may see in a deployed theater, but it also allows them to see what to do in a limited resource environment.
So we learn to experience emotionally what it's like to be, or have your hands almost tied behind your back, and what those emotions feel like, and because it is a thing that you have to process through, and it's also part of that readiness. This is, even though sometimes it seems chaotic, it is somewhat of a controlled environment, whereas when you get into times of more distress, it can be uncontrolled, and how do we manage that as a team as well as personally?
I think it's important that we're here working with our African counterparts because we're sharing experiences. It's not us teaching them or them teaching us. We are sharing our experiences together, how we both have different backgrounds, different ways of practicing, and improving each other's equally.
We're here to see how our Ghanaian folks are able to treat their patients in the midst of logistical constraints. We also tell them how we would have done certain things if it were back in the States.
It's a very humbling experience. It makes you appreciative of everything that you have at home, as well as it teaches you that you can get by with less than what you are already working with, and that sometimes you just need to be resourceful and you need to look for the solution instead of waiting for a solution to come to you.
In order to keep this flame burning, that's why this mission existed, so that we can maintain that cordiality between the two countries, so that we can share ideas, partner each other.
Like taking my time out of the hospital to teach and better people has meant so much to me, and solidified why I choose I do what I do, why I chose to be a nurse, because it's to better people and make people brighter, help their days up. I've gotten a lot from that, making my heart kind of swell and pull my heartstrings that, you know, I'm bettering people over here that need it the most.
The U.S. Security Forces squadrons are also working in Niger to train with the country's armed forces members. The training equips the Nigerian armed forces in building clearing, life-saving measures, and prepares them for future deployments.
It's cool to see how they go from day one, where all they know for the most part from their basic training is discipline, maybe some simple firing platforms, to now learning entering and clearing and some combat care under fire and things of that nature. And it's cool to see them piece it all together into one large scale exercise and see what they remember. What we're attempting to do here is build an interoperability and working further with the coalition, so that way they're not only trained and equipped, but they're trained and equipped in a manner to work collectively with the United States and other armed forces around the world.
We've narrowed down the skills that we feel are necessary for them. We've also talked to their leadership to find out what they would like us to train them on, and narrowed it down to the individual skills that they need to be successful. Favorite part of doing this job is just the satisfaction, the relationships, the sense of camaraderie. You preach warrior ethos to them and they get fired up. They're excited. Watch them train after giving them a speech about heart and spirit, and see how hard they train after that, and it's exciting to see.
After the break, how recent advances in technology have helped the Defense POW MIA accounting agency reunite families with soldiers who never made it home from war. Welcome back. The Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency had made it their mission to reunite service members and their families with soldiers who never made it home from war. There are currently still many unaccounted for from previous wars, and recent advances in technology have allowed scientists and researchers to explore underwater landscapes that were previously unreachable.
It's really important, there's a promise that we make as a nation to our service members and that they make to one another, that no one will be left behind, no one will be forgotten. And this is how the nation executes that promise. This is how we go about fulfilling that.
One of the main differences of what people expect when to happen when they see it on TV or in the movies versus the reality of working in a human identification lab or a crime lab is that DNA results don't come back within that 30-minute episode. It takes oftentimes very much longer for any of the analytical tests that we do to yield a result that we can use in the laboratory. The USS Oklahoma project was one of the main first projects that we've had to do as a concerted effort for a project, and we just recently hit the 200 ID milestone this past week or a couple weeks ago.
The whole reason that we were able to do these disinterment projects is that now, with the science and the technology that we have, we can make the argument that these remains that have been unidentified and unidentifiable for over 70 years, now we have the capability to identify them. So the Oklahoma, was sort of the pathfinder, the way forward that showed we can be successful doing this. And so based on their success, we made the argument to disinter the West Virginia and the California. And so, yeah, the expectations are identical that we will be able to identify all or nearly all of the individuals from those two ships that are still unidentified.
The amount of effort that goes into recovering these remains and to making identifications, it's oftentimes a lot of hard research and analysis prior to even getting to go on an investigation or a recovery or an exhumation if it was a disinterment. And then once the remains are accessioned into the laboratory, be it from field work or from exhumations from cemeteries, There's just a large amount of information that we have to take in and analytical tests to perform that all kind of coalesce to become a picture of an individual identification.
I'm always surprised to hear that folks aren't aware that we're doing this, and so it's really important to me to be able to spread that word so that the people do know this is something that's ongoing, and even if it takes 75 years or longer, we're not going to give up.
After escaping conflict in Afghanistan as a child, one private was called to serve to protect those around the world who can't protect themselves. Here's his story.
Should I start? Yeah. Oh, okay. My name is Atiq Al-Asadi, private from Detroit, Michigan.
Where are you originally from?
Originally from Afghanistan. Originally from Afghanistan. I would love to return. You know, it's beautiful there. It reminds me of Colorado and Washington. It's similar, you know, other than the parts where, unfortunately, where the extremism, you know, the terrorists took over and stuff. So people start getting scared and try to, you know, leave home. You know, I remember that very vividly. I remember waking up by, you know, masked men. They kidnapped my father and my brothers from on the way coming from the mosque. They had a truck outside the house. They were putting everything, I mean, every single thing as small as a needle, basically, you know, looting the whole house. They walked me and my brother a couple of streets down, and I saw my father, and I was crying. You know, I was young. I was crying, and I was, you know, I was telling them, please don't kill my father. Don't kill my father. And my father heard me. And my father had a smile on his face. You know, he said, don't cry, son. You know, we're stronger. These days will leave. You know, these days will go away. Just have faith. I started realizing that, you know, the extremists and such as, you know, Taliban or ISIS or any of these people, they don't have a home on earth, you know, and they should not have a home on earth. I feel like I should, you know, I should be able to help out, do something, you know, to help out the people and trying to eliminate these people. So here I am, you know, here I am. My mom and my dad always said that we should always be thankful in this country because we have everything. You know, we have shopping centers. You know, you know, we want something, we go right down the street, we'll go buy whatever we want. We have hospitals, we have everything. You know, a lot of people, you know, they don't have this, especially back home. We don't have this. You know, people living in the mountains, they have to travel days and days to get to just a clinic. I decided I want to serve, to go ahead and fight against extremism, you know, fight against extremism and, you know, and serve for the country.
Coming up, how musicians in the military are making their mark. Thanks for staying with us. The Marine Corps created the Vocalist Military Occupational Specialty in 2018 to fill the need for the specialized skill set it takes to be a singer. Lance Corporal Megan Browning is the first Marine to be recruited as a vocalist.
Lance Corporal Megan Browning, and I am a vocalist in the United States Marine Corps. As a Marine Corps vocalist, we are there to engage an audience and represent the Marine Corps. I've been singing for a very long time. I think my first ever solo was in 5th grade. Set me free, leave me. I don't want to fall another moment into your gravity. I started professionally singing at 17, and I worked at Busch Gardens. It was super fun, and then I caught the bug, as they say. But going contract to contract like that, like as a civilian musician, was not what it was all cracked up to be. As you get older, it gets a little scarier because you're like, oh, I have this dream, and then you're like, oh, let's make this a reality. Since I've been here, I've been very grateful that there's been a solidified plan of what I'm going to be doing. I take vocal lessons from an Army Sergeant First Class.
Don't breathe there, okay? Breathe there. God shed His grace on thee. God shed His grace on thee.
And then my curriculum is kind of built off of the Navy vocalist curriculum with a few adjustments that are tailored to Marine Corps life and what the Marine Corps band will actually need from a fleet vocalist. I'm so excited to help grow this MOS. I'm excited that more people are finding out about it and that more people are gonna come in and make this whole group that I get to work with. I'm gonna be really excited when this grows and solidifies itself.
One thing that I still know is that you're keeping me down.
Staff Sergeant Emily Robinson is also a musician and says it's music that helps her get through the struggles as a chief drill instructor.
Music, to me, it's something that just really can't be taken away. There's always going to be music. Everything correlates back to music. Someone else's song is their story. To be able to make music myself is probably one of my most appreciated skills. It honestly was kind of sad, being able to play my guitar but not being able to sing along with myself. But being a drill instructor, it's a sacrifice. After a long day of work, you come home and you're tired, you're stressed, and I would just lay there with my guitar and just play, and sometimes I'd play myself to sleep. Definitely a place I could go to get me away from the stressors of the job.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back. Last year, the Defense Department launched a new initiative called This Is Your Military to highlight the work of service members. The initiative also has the goal of debunking myths about military service and increasing awareness among the American people. Using the hashtag #KnowYourMil, the DoD is sharing personal stories to inspire others. Senior Airman Gage Weiner joined the U.S. Air Force in 2014 as a radar, airfield, and weather systems technician. And despite taking on new challenges as an American airman, he has been able to continue his passion of playing guitar. He shares his story.
I am Senior Airman Gage Weiner. So I work at the Combat Com here on Ramstein, Germany, and my job is radar, airfield, and weather systems. Basically anything that has to do with ground-to-air communications, air traffic control towers, navigational aids for planes landing on an airfield. So I was 10 years old when I started playing music. I was playing Guitar Hero, and I was playing it on Expert, and I thought, wow, this would be so much cooler if I could do it in real life. You set little goals for yourself when you're playing music, and I think it's really cool because you hear a riff, and you're like, I want to play that. And you play it, and you mess up, and you're just like, I can't, do this yet, but you keep working at it over and over, and you finally get it, and it's just like, oh yes, like I did that, and it sounds so cool. It's just like, oh, it's overwhelming. It feels great. I think my band and I, we put on a show. When we're all together and we're just feeling it and in the moment, you make people feel things, which is kind of my goal in music. I want people to feel the way that I feel when I listen to my favorite music, when they're listening to us, and I think that that's something that we really bring to the table. I think it's really cool. My favorite part about music is just the bond that it creates with other people. A military aspect. I think it's pretty cool that I'm able to do both. I get to support my country and I get to play music at the same time, and that's really rad.
That's all for today, but you can find more of our exclusive news coverage at cbnnews.com. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.